Right, Deepshika, I guess you need to
Yes,
start.
Yes, sir, we're ready. I'll just start.
I'm happy to start. My name is Ilja Salmi. I'm working for Confluence Association. Great, all old friends and new friends. You are hopefully many of you online. We are exercising, having a nice discussion. I wish it will be giving a lot of ideas and tools for your development in education, research, and even business and industry. But what this whole is about, PRE is a thing created by IXDA. Alok Nandi here will say a couple of words of IXDA, but all Cumulus serving practitioners like professionals, researchers, and educators. And we are carrying out this as a series, encouraging focused conversations and trying to identify critical elements that further build capacity for designers and at different stages of your careers, from studies to lifelong learning. And we organize these meetings, PRE meetings, as working groups, as we are now today together with institutions of different kinds, academia, corporations, and policymakers that are willing to push pre-agenda. And today we are focusing on issues during these disruptive times, somehow also trying to match technology for better research and education. But I think our speakers will take the floor and run the train forward. I'm inviting all of you to take the next stage on our great session today.
A very warm welcome to everyone. We are here at PRE Design Practice Research Education in association with Cumulus plus IDA session. PRE Insights would be part of the Jaipur Design Declaration, which is the part of the World Design Declaration. This declaration recognizes the need for strategic leadership on design matters at local, regional, national, and international levels, and the need for governance models, political agendas, and policy to take design into account. It acknowledges the fundamental and critical role of design to create a world that is environmentally sustainable, economically viable, socially equitable, and culturally diverse. The session moderators are Ilja Salmi, Secretary General, Cumulus International Association of Universities and College of Art, Design and Media; Mr. Alok Nandi, entrepreneur, strategist, author, educator, narrative plus design managing director partner, Spread Design Architempo, IEDA past president. Speaker for the session are Dr. Vicky Erickson, is a design researcher and educationalist focusing on design evolution and theories that influence modern design practice. She's postdoctoral researcher and lecturer at the Aalto University Design Factory. Mercy Segu, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, CEO ADCE Art Directors Club of Europe and Barcelona, Spain. Dr. Lakshmi Murthy, designer, researcher, and educator, founder Vikalp Design and co-founder Jatin Sansthan, an NGO. Bhargav Mistry, educator and product designer, Dean Design Culture, Arch College of Design and Business. Ms. Archana Surana, founder and director, Arch College of Design and Business, chairperson, Pink City Design Confluence, former dean and academic council member, Rajasthan ILD Skills University, member, C2 National Council for Design. Over to you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for setting the stage, and Eya, thanks for reminding us where we are coming from. So this afternoon or this evening in Jaipur, we will have some speakers sharing insights about questions which are connected to the intersection zone between practice, research, and education. And just to give you a short overview, PRE began in 2018, where one of the core insight or pain point that we're trying to explore is how can practitioners, and some of us in the room are practitioners, could feedback to educators how to upgrade the education program so that students who are coming out of design schools or colleges or universities are better fit for the job. So this was our initial trigger. The second element which Eya and myself for XDA, Eya for Cumulus, we thought was important was to look into different parts of the world, because design is contextual. And there are many practices in different parts of the world which require different attitude, mindset, and tool set. So today we are in Jaipur, in real life or in virtual, physical or at a distance. And what we are interested is how can we get insights from Jaipur? And at the same time, we have Vicky and Merce who are in Helsinki and Barcelona. How can their views enrich what is happening in their region in resonance or not with Jaipur? So Jaipur is our anchor point. And thanks Archana for inviting us with Bhargav. And we have Lakshmi who will also share some insights from India. How are we going to reinforce the bridging between practice, research, and education? And my proposal is that we have each of the speakers sharing with us some of the burning points they have. And Merce, if you are okay, you'll begin. And then we'll go to Lakshmi, and then we'll have Vicky, and then we'll have Bhargav. And Archana will add at the end some of her insights as having founded the school. And Eya and myself, we will be there to reframe or interconnect some of the points you have shared. So this will be the first part of our hour. And then we will open up in two modalities. One will be each speaker will react to some of the insights shared by the other speaker so that we reinforce the knowledge that we are creating in collaboration. And then we'll open up to audience for some Q&A. Hope that this format makes sense for everyone and that it doesn't create tension. We are here, as Eya said, in a kind of informal, conversational, and interactive session. So do not hesitate to interrupt if some of the elements are getting too jargon, but we are there to create knowledge. Eya, did I cover everything? Yep.
Yes.
Great.
Merce, rock and roll is yours.
Yeah, and before Merce, you share your screen, I would like with Aya to thank the team at Arch for having set all the logistic and having organized everything. So thanks Arch team, thanks Archana, and thanks Bhargav for setting the stage. And I would have loved personally to be in Jaipur to enjoy some of the Jaipur Literature Festival moments. So Archana and Bhargav, be ready because Aya and I and all of us, we want to enjoy Jaipur in real life.
Yep.
Many of us are getting tired of Zoom. So let's try to keep the good moment on Zoom, but we are waiting to be in India with all of you.
Yeah, sure.
Merce, the floor is yours. Maybe a quick test to see if you can share the screen.
Before that, Alok, would you like to specify the time for each speaker?
The idea is that each of you has about 7 to 8 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
It is elastic time. Don't.
Okay, perfect. I
So
will need
in India,
someone
sometimes
to-
8 minutes becomes 20 minutes, but let's try to avoid 20 minutes and stay around 8 minutes, if I may say so.
Yeah. Okay, I just put my chrono here to control.
Okay.
And I guess I will be short, no problem at all. I would need someone to allow me to share the screen, please.
Yeah. So dear speaker, quickly introduce yourself. Merce, we know that you're in Barcelona, but many of
Exactly,
the audience
exactly.
don't know your organization. So a few seconds of self-intro, and then you jump into some of the highlights.
Sure. My name is Mercè Segú. I'm the general manager of the Art Directors Club of Europe. We are located in Barcelona. And well, I'm trying to share my screen, but I'm not able to. So
Bhargav, can we ask to the tech team to open the lock so that Merce can
yeah, for all participants, well, all
present.
speakers at least.
Does it work?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not.
Welcome to Zoom.
I mean, I would need someone from your side, right? Because I'm
it's someone
disabled.
who's hosting the session.
The host, yeah, the host of the session, please. If you can make me co-host.
They need to go in the specs and allow screen sharing.
Exactly. Or maybe, yeah.
Archana, you know who's there in the backstage in the kitchen?
I will just maybe.
It's done. Yeah, it's done.
It's done, Merce, you can try.
Done. Okay.
Okay, super.
Great. Can you see it?
Yeah, perfect.
Good. Perfect. So, as I was mentioning, I'm general manager of the Art Directors Club of Europe. Okay, here. So ADC is it represents the European creative community to interact and foster, explore, and celebrate and promote creativity as a multi-solution approach, right? So we believe that really, if we are a diverse, connected, and collaborative European creative community, we will be able to solve complex problems. So we really put in the center of the problem solving creativity and design, of course, taking also design as a discipline that we use in communication as well, right? And then ADC, we educate, inspire, and exchange knowledge and experience by leveraging the diversity of European creativity. So we are basically located in Europe, right? We were founded in 1990. So to promote and reward creativity, excellence in communication and graphic design throughout Europe. We are in 22 countries with our headquarters in Barcelona, where my office is. And then we represent 23 club members from different sizes. The biggest one is DNID from UK. And the smallest one maybe could be the Cyprus Creative Club. So we have many different clubs representing European creatives. And then we gather in all these 23 creative clubs, we gather around 6,000 professionals from our directors, copywriters, creative directors, so everyone, graphic designers, photographers, everyone related with the communication industry, right? So we are very centered in communication, right? Our activities basically are the awards. We do the European Graphic Design Advertising Awards every year. We organize the European Creativity Festival, where we gather all our creative community. And then we also organize educational programs. So this is where maybe we will be more in collaboration with you regarding these educational programs, right? So the awards just, they gather the best in European design. Only winners from local, national design and advertising contests can participate to our award. So it's like the Champions League in European graphic design and advertising. Then the Creativity Festival during 2 days in Barcelona. We used to organize it. Of course, these 2 years we have been to organize it online, but we've been able to keep on the activity. And then our educational programs, where we have this that one is Creative Express. It's a workshop we organize with around 30 young creatives coming from all over Europe in 2.5 days in one place. And we work on finding different creative solutions based on a specific problem, a brief that we have for every edition. And we celebrated already 10 editions of that workshop. It's a very successful workshop. Then we do that Greatness Challenge, where we invite young creatives to take place in our judging session together with professionals, so for the awards. And then we are now developing that Erasmus Plus project, which is called Bridging the Creativity Gap, which is very related with the topic you are going to debate, I think, where we try to find to address the creative skills gap between education and industry, because we, from our professional perspective, we have identified that there are some specific gaps, and we are trying to cover through educational material in an innovative methodology. For the moment, we are working in these 3 skills identified: strategic thinking, industry processes, and entrepreneurial mindset. So that's we are now under this program, because we started in 2020, and we are going to finish the project in 2023. So we are in the middle of the project, developing these tools and all the educational material. So that's very interesting then after to share with you with all our outputs. And then we have also the educational program, an agency exchange, where we promote the exchange between agencies, right? We did a first experience with someone from Portugal who went to Finland, and someone from Finland who went to Poland and to Portugal, sorry. And we tried to be the platform to make that happen, right? And then we organize other things that I will go through very quickly. We organize ADC nights, local activities where we celebrate the local winners of the ADC awards. Then we do a traveling exhibition with all our winners from every awards edition. Then we gather all winners of our contest, of course, in our website. Now it was an annual published, but then it's now online, the annual of annuals, with the best European art, design and advertising. And then we have a directory of all European creatives. So this is my presentation, what ADC does. So you can, sorry, where is it? I will stop sharing. Okay, someone did already. So that's what we do. And this is what we can collaborate with you in terms of our perspective from the professional side. We are a non-for-profit professional organization. So thank you for, I don't know if you would like me to say something else regarding your manifesto, but we are really supporting that, of course, because we really, as I mentioned at the beginning, we believe in creativity as a key element to solve problems, and it's crucial to have the good development of society and to face all the challenging problems we have. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Merce, for sharing what you do with your organization, and it allows us to have a very interesting landscape of initiatives happening in Europe, and we see that there are many points which will be in resonance with things happening in Asia, in India, and in other parts of the world. Merce will interact based on the other insights and yours after having this tour de table, which will allow to feed our conversation. So you might be asked to react to some of the other insights. And I propose to give the floor to Lakshmi, if she's okay, because Lakshmi has got also some insights which will come with other directions. Specifically, I'm thinking about the not-for-profit organization and the grassroots activities you are busy with, which allows for me, I think, to share the diversity of approaches that we'll cover in this session. While Merce, you shared some professional-centric with structured design agencies and design pro. What is happening with creativity and grassroots energy? How would we interconnect that in resonance with informal knowledge and formal knowledge? These are some keywords that I'm putting on the table, but Lakshmi, the floor is yours, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Anup. Thank you very much. I would like to say that I represent the non-government organization space in India, which essentially means that I work with resource-poor communities, work not just rural communities, but they could be also resource-poor communities. And the poorest of the poor are also there in urban locations. So what is it that I exactly do? I will share with you some slides that I'd used for the Arch presentation a few weeks ago, and that will kind of put in perspective a little bit of what I am involved with most of the time. I work in the area of behavior change communication, which essentially means just changing a community's behavior from a negative behavior to a desired positive behavior. And specifically in my case, I work in the area of reproductive health. And within reproductive health, one important aspect is menstruation and the management of menstruation. Of course, research informs everything that we do. I work with researchers. I am a researcher myself. And typically when I have a scenario in front of me, I would address it in many different ways. In the case of menstruation in India, like in many cultures across the globe, it continues to be shrouded in silence. Very few people speak about menstruation, although it's the source of life itself. So India, like I said in other cultures, we have a lot of superstition around menstruation and its management. There's patriarchy, there are gender issues, and there are many issues that govern the whole business of menstruation. So we break silence, we work with the community, we build the knowledge base, and we include, importantly, those who do not menstruate in our work, which could be men, which could be, even there are many women who do not menstruate. There are many transgender communities, intersex communities who menstruate. So we include a lot of people in our work. And in terms of management, we look at informed product choices. What are the choices that you would use typically when you need to manage menstruation? So in the case of the range of menstruation products available currently in the world, most of it is non-biodegradable. For example, the disposable pads have close to 90% of plastic materials and chemicals. So we developed a tool, a sustainability tool, to develop a sustainable menstruation management product. And looking at sustainability, there are typically 4 pillars of sustainability. So which is environment, economic, health, and social. So looking at based on this tool, we developed a simple clock pad. And I have a small unit that manufactures, a batch production of clock pads. We have a very small amount of sale each month. We focus on teaching menstruators how to stitch their own clock pad. Not only do we teach menstruators, we include non-menstruators in conversations, and non-menstruators like young boys or young men also stitch cloth pads, which is for us a way of in being included, a way of understanding what happens to menstruators, understanding the discomfort and the pain that you go through those few days in the month, and also it's empathy. So this is a little bit of what we do. And typically, just as I said, these are all the product choices. I don't want to go into that, but just quickly sharing with you that there are many product choices, and what we focus on are cloth pads. And typically, this is how we would work with the community. Not only do we work with young people, we also work with older women. We work with adolescents. They could be tribals, they could be from different communities. Lastly, I won't take too much time. I will just lastly say that I try to weave in as much of my work as possible into education activities. For example, if I have a project that has, very recently we worked in 12 prisons in a state in India. So there are lots of insights that I got from working with inmates in these prisons. So this is what very often we share with young people. If there's a course on, say, a design process, or a course that says issues and perspectives in the social sector. So that is how I like to blend what I've learned from practice, what research has thrown up, and finally, for designers, it also needs an end product. And in my case, it's a product that we've developed with a sustainable tool. So I'll just close here, so we can take this further.
Thanks, Lakshmi. And I put in the chat what is the meaning of Jatan based on how you presented that on your website. In Hindi, it means an effort. It also means energy, striving, endeavor, diligence, and perseverance. And I thought it was important to highlight that. And I find the name of your organization great, because it's about mindset, and it comes into resonance about what we as designers need to work on. Allow me to add a second comment before giving the floor to Vicky. For those of you who are not connected to Indian everyday culture, you know from far away that India is quite readable through its Bollywood cinema industry. And Lakshmi, we know that there was a film which was made a few years ago called Batman, which allowed to highlight this complex issue of menstruation to some other large audience. So I'll be curious to see how you'd frame that film, popular culture Bollywood film, into this complex societal issue in terms of perception and practice and habits, and see how we push the boundaries of perception and action. Thanks, Lakshmi, and allow me to give the floor to Vicky. Vicky, you are, or you were in South Africa, now you are in Helsinki, and it's fascinating from Merce in Barcelona to you covering South Africa and Helsinki with Eya, and Lakshmi, you are in India and with Bhargav and Archana. So we are covering many, many points of view. And Vicky, the floor will be yours, knowing that you are having a hat which is academic, but also some research, and you'll tell us more. Vicky, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been so inspiring listening to what everybody's been talking about. As Alok mentioned, I am at the moment one of those kind of global nomads. So I come originally from South Africa, now based in Helsinki at the Aalto University Design Factory. And one of the key goals that we explore here really is that interface between research, between looking at the university offering for students in industry, in how we can contribute to having students that have more real world experiences, that have interaction with industry, and also to close that feedback loop so that we're also constantly learning from industry, and that we're really kind of moving into a space where we're learning from each other. So I'm hoping that you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think one of the key things that I wanted to touch on as we kind of talk about Society 5.0, as we talk about Creativity 5.0, and something that I really found quite meaningful looking through some of the conference material is really about trying to have a conversation about the role of design as this link, as really a network or an ecosystem, or a thread that brings together society, industry, and that in a way starts to shape not only the world that we live in, but hopefully the world that we would like to live in. So I thought I would use this platform just to really kind of have a call to action within the design community, I think, more than anything. And I really see that design community as being our creative community, whether it is looking at individuals working within an MPO sector, whether it is looking at the for-profit sector, because ultimately it's a community that is focused on identifying the needs that we need to take forward if we want to activate change. And I think there's one thing around desiring change. We all want that. We all want things to be better. But I think a key need that we're recognizing in research and industry and really trying to feed that back into education as well is how do we activate it? When we talk about fields such as interaction design, and really we also see it with experience design, with service design, we're moving into spaces where ways of working and ways of engaging is really becoming very transdisciplinary. And although we talk about the benefits of this, often I feel that our deep understanding of the methods and the tools of the approaches to leverage that interaction in a way that's really meaningful might be lagging behind. And it is a space I feel that we could really collaborate with from these different areas and sectors, is to learn to work together in a way that is more strategic, more resilient, whether it is transdisciplinary approaches, tools, lexicons. Ultimately, the complexity of the challenges that we're facing in every sector and in every aspect of modern life is so complex that we understand we need different voices. We understand that we need different professional input, different bodies of knowledge to make a real difference and to activate change. But one of the key things that we need to explore are ways of working and ways of engaging that will really support this. And that's part of the research that we're also doing here at the Design Factory is looking very much at design as an activator, as a process that moves beyond focusing on a particular solution, but as a process that can really underpin the common elements in what all of us are trying to achieve, and to leverage that into a way that we can make sense together. When we look at design thinking kind of disconnected from the process, I think that is often promoted. What we have is a process that fundamentally allows us ways to communicate across disciplines, across cultures, It allows us to observe the world for what it really is, and in a way to record those experiences so that we could leverage it in our solutions today, but also start to record so that we can build a legacy of understanding in what is happening in these transdisciplinary spaces. As a way of thinking and a way of engaging, and I'm loving conversations around creativity as a driver, because that's really what it is creative problem solving. It allows us a way to collaborate and reflect on possible solutions that I think, a transdisciplinary way of thinking and working really transcends an individual approach to working. And through that, we're enabling a way to adjust behavior, to adjust the complexity that we can see in the human world around us. And it also mediates quite a bit of what we're hoping to achieve with the conversation around, design for behavior, I think is so relevant. It is so much a part of what we need to look at today, because we're moving to a space where balancing what we need and what we desire, it's kind of gotten us into trouble, really, on many levels. So how do we create an entire new behavior around sustainable ways of working, sustainable ways of being, and recognizing how we move that forward? And it very much is this interaction point between education, between research, very much the focus of technology as well, of industry, to help us grapple with some of the complexity that we're seeing. So I think one of the biggest comments that I have as we move into this conversation, and hopefully conversations, beyond just this, is that if we explore the future through certain key elements that might tie into creativity, to society, to industry, that in parallel to that, we have a conversation around the mechanisms, the methods, and the ways of working that underpin this, so that we actually can learn from it. Because if we look at what is happening between society 5.0 and creativity 5.0, we can leverage those two to really start talking about what is radical inclusivity, what does it look like, and what is the process and the methods that we need to put in place if we would like to achieve it. In the same way, create a creative approach to how we do business and to Industry 5.0 allows us an opportunity to really relook at radical sustainability. We were unfortunately at a point where the luxurious, slow yield choices are it's just not possible anymore. And we need to make bold decisions and put in action kind of bold solutions to some of the challenges that we're seeing. And obviously then if we look at the relationship between society and industry, we see an opportunity for radical innovation. But in all of those, for me, what becomes a key driver is a conversation between everyone in the creative problem-solving discipline about design as activism, and about really looking at how we can work together, reframe the strengths that we have to not just explore a future, but to talk quite practically about how do we start enabling it. And what is the collaborative methods? What are the tools? What are the approaches that will support us in our interaction to really enable meaningful change? And I think the last slide that I want to share is from a fictitious character. I'm not quite sure how universally known Dr. Seuss is, but if you know the character, I think this is quite an interesting space to end the talk on. And it says, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. And I feel that that really is kind of a summary, that there is a responsibility within each of us, within our own understanding and discipline and sector, but as a creative problem-solving community, to start to really activate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky. Thanks, and great for the three contributions we got so far, because we see that they are getting into resonance while keeping the originality of each voice, while keeping the positioning of each of your practice or your parcours. And what is interesting for us to continue the conversation is trying to understand ways of working and ways of engaging, as you pointed, Vicky. There are so many ways which are déjà vu for thousands of years. And they are déjà vu for some good reasons. But the last 70 years have highlighted some very bad reasons. And I think that all the crises we are going through this last 2 years or 2.5 years are the output and the outcome of the last 70, 75 years where, and we might go back into history, but I'm afraid that we won't have enough time for that. And we want to be as hands-on as possible. Archana, for a provocation, I think we should have 2 full PRE days next year where we bring all these people and we do in real life workshops and we unbound these questions, because here we are just on the tip of the icebergs, if I may say so. And knowing that Bhargav is an excellent surfer skier, I'll give you the ball so that you can react and propose your insights. Bhargav, are you ready to jump in on your ski on the Mount Everest? I think you're...
okay.
Was I so violent that you muted yourself?
Oh dear. I had muted it from the beginning. Anyway, thanks, Alok, and thanks, Lakshmi, Mercy, Vicky, for sharing your insights. I don't have any. I'd like to just share some of my experiences in the design world, or rather the design domain in our country. I mean, I have worked for about more than 4 decades in industry as well as in education, and how this design education has evolved, or if not design education, even design practice has evolved. Now, in our nation, we really were trying to find out ways as to exactly what design is, and we were following the form follows function, the aesthetics, and trying to figure out what the needs are, and doing more of formal exercises during the earlier years. Now, it has evolved to such an extent now that one really feels that the definition today seems to have evolved in such a way that it's not just mere aesthetics, style, and ergonomics, but it's what we tend to do is, solve tricky technological and socio-cultural problems. Like someone rightly said that I think design profession continues to evolve into more of a hybrid industry. Like what I mean is, it is considered today in our scenario as much technical as it is creative. Now, combining this two is not exactly an easy thing here. In most of the design colleges, we generally tend to go on the creative side, and the technicalities are, of course, left to the technology domains. But we are seeing that these are combining together. And new materials, new methods, new ways of expressing, new ways of interacting are the things. On one hand, we are quite, especially in Jaipur. Jaipur is almost a craft design capital. And you see a lot of things which are hand done, and the whole concept of design is a bit different than what it is in the formal world of design. So the curriculum, I don't know, these are some of my personal views. I thought I'll just share them here. Needs to mature faster in its contents and the way of teaching. Now, in order to adapt rapidly to these, technological and sociological domains, and sometimes even natural situations like the kind of pandemics that we faced. And in order to be effective, what I think all the domains, I'm not saying just designers, only one common thread running through the other domains in order to really create effective and innovative things, which we call design, is a combination of being sensitive, curious, imaginative, passionate, perseverant, observant. I mean, this may mean trying things differently. You should have those unless one really has the passion to do things, because many a times people take up design as a career out here, not out of passion, but out of certain other circumstances. So to really infuse how to be empathetic, how to be creative in such situations where time also is a limit, is something that we need to really look into. Many projects, say design-related projects at national levels, don't work out, though a lot of money is being spent in it, but just the factor of having really understood what we need is something which is missed. Now, we had thousands and thousands of toilets installed all across the country, but hardly anything is being used. Why? What's gone wrong? I mean, a very simple design error over there. And yet, we have over 1,000 design colleges across the country, producing thousands and thousands of graduates every year. Where do they all go? What do they contribute? See? Now, the real requirements is, where it should go. Yet there are people who, take up things of their choice, of their passion. But here the answers are quite clear. See, the curriculum probably needs to amalgamate with closely knit sciences, technology, sociology, economics, crafts, and medical sciences. And design probably, I feel, should not be just an isolated domain. It has to connect all the dots together, a good appreciation of all these understandings. Then we can probably have some effective solutions, which is the need of the hour. I mean, we are also entering into the area of super specializations. I mean, if you go into the medical domains or even high technology domains, so skill sets which creators and innovators need, whether the skill sets are going to be used by working in teams or by acquiring some. But whatever it is, it's an important requirement today. Even the working styles, pandemic has taught us to work even away from so-called office hours. So flexible arrangements is also a way to better interactions and better creative output. Also in India, I mean, another interesting thing is traditional careers like engineering, management, medicine, healthcare. They are not just expensive, but they involve a lot of competition just because of the large number of students who opt for them. And hence finding jobs in these mainstreams have become a big challenge. So the road less traveled often is the road of design. But when you take that road, the factors that we just talked about are very important before, one plunges into it. So I'd say that Curiosity, imagination, passion, perseverance are the key requirements for people who want to take up innovation, creativity, design as a career. We have so much of knowledge on hand or on our fingertips through internet and so many things, yet we don't know how to utilize this knowledge. Why? Because we do not have appropriate imagination. So my understanding is that this knowledge with the right imagination is what leads to creativity, the right creativity, not just a superficial creativity. And this creativity plus understanding empathetically the needs of not just the society, but the combination of everything put together gives us what today we need in design and innovation. So I thought I'll share these few thoughts and set the ball rolling for further comments or arguments or suggestions or anything.
Thanks. Thank you, Barkaf. And let's try to put into resonance the 4 contributions we had. And Archana, you want to add a few words before we connect the dots?
Right. Thank you, Alok Ayya, for bringing PRE to Jaipur. And I think the Pink City Design Confluence has truly been the space for a lot of contribution that has come from the planet. We've got 10 countries who have put in their researchers. For the next 2 days, we have all people from practice, right? Industry, that is the garment industry, the jewelry industry, the interior design industry, the handicraft industry. Then we've got the MSME, which we call as the medium, small size enterprises. So all such forums are going to be presenting. So at the intent level, while we are talking about the PRE and bringing industry, education, research all together and looking at employability of our people, it's very key for education to address that alongside within the academic infrastructure. I mean, when we're actually delivering. So very beautifully, Jaipur is among India's top 5 cities when it comes to IT and the kind of infrastructure it has to support the IT startups. So we have India's first largest techno hub, which is existing in the city itself. While we are known more for our heritage, there's a great possibility because of the kind of exports that has been happening for almost 5 decades from the city to the world when it comes to handicrafts. So the IKEAs of the world are actually fed by the entrepreneurs from this city who are actually supplying to the planet. So when it comes to gems and jewelry, I think we are the second or the third largest in the country itself. In terms of the raw material, we are the largest tanzanite. 70% of the tanzanite gets processed here in this city. And talk about the garment exports. So hand block, the heritage crafts have been taken to the world markets from Jaipur city. So there's huge opportunity for placement, opportunity in terms of youth getting the true environment in terms of nurturing their creativity and finding a marketplace too. So that's where I wanted to connect the dots, that it's very important for the education ecosystem to have a nurturing environment in the city where they are positioned. And the city itself allows a lot of opportunity for learning, sharing, collaborating, co-creating. So most of the Pink City Design Confluence has been a great co-creation. And yesterday we had a great fashion show at the Amir Fort. And I think we had visitors from across the globe who actually were there. We had a panel at the Literature Festival. So interestingly, the city has so much to offer. And why it's so important today is to look at IPR, intellectual property, because design has become so easily available through the internet now that right from the Pinterest to the Instagram, there is so much that people have an opportunity to express. And what would creativity mean in this new VUCA world, the vulnerable, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. What would creativity truly mean now? So that's where probably I think the contribution where Vicky and Mercy actually started their, the presentation was largely looking at the disruptive thought process and looking at how art and creativity needs to be nurtured through the various Erasmus Plus project and thing. So presently we are also working with on the Erasmus Plus project, which is on social and sustainable entrepreneurship. And I feel that creative entrepreneurship needs to be nurtured further rather than only thinking about the large size format industries, because the more we really need to look at more sustainable economies in cities rather, and a very circular approach to our pedagogy, to our practice, to our the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So I think circularity is a mindset that needs to be completely addressed in terms of how education can build this within the teaching and learning system. That's what I felt is key to the conversation when it comes to, I'm a first generation social entrepreneur and from an educator. So my connections come largely because I sit on a lot of industry boards. So I completely understand that while I run an education institution, my heart actually lies within the industry. And I see these young people as, to make them ready professionals. So here's a great opportunity to build an ecosystem and a very collaborative mindset of co-creation where we can truly nurture each other, work with the community, with the social sector, like what Lakshmi pointed out was the Jatan Sansthan. Since we have a lot of wicked problems around us, it still needs, it requires a huge amount of design intervention. And when we look at a nation like India or even cities, I think we have abundance of design sensibility that's surrounding us. But is our education able to address that in their teaching and learning and bring the dot and connect the dots for them? I think that's very, very important. And the voice from India in terms of design has to actually now ring a bell on the planet, because when we talk about society 5.0, I think with developed nations, there are a lot of, they're already developed in a certain right kind of infrastructure. But as developing nations, as the world has coined it, I wouldn't call it, but I would say that I think each one of us are developing. And I think even the Western world has their own set of challenges in terms of education to practice to, research level ideas. Similarly, I think all of us have it. And I think it's a time to actually build bonds and work together and nurture a mindset of tolerance where, we can learn from each other's best practices. That's where I feel the whole industry then, becomes more ethical, and the ethics in design probably sees its real, and we could probably bring peace on the planet then.
Thanks, Archana. Thanks for sharing your views also as an entrepreneur.
Thank
because for some of you by now, you might have guessed that French is my first language, and entreprendre means to take. Prendre means to take. And entrepreneur is a French word, and I guess merci in Catalan or in Spanish, you have this notion of taking, put the grip on. And for me, design is about that. It's about taking the matter on and make stuff. And our challenge as designers is, how do we shape the ways while we are walking? How do we pave the road while we are walking? That is my provocation to all of us. And listening to all your insights and building on what Archana said, as entrepreneur, we all need to be entrepreneur. And the system, and especially the education system, has pushed down our entrepreneurial capabilities. Because when we look back at our childhood, when children are age 3, 4, 5 years old, they are exploring. They are entrepreneurs. They are taking things with their hands. And I'm using that as a metaphor and going back to childhood, because what I find is that education system has pushed children to unlearn what they were beginning to explore. And our challenges now is not only to create the positioning of unlearning in a positive way, creative destruction, to relearn systems and system thinking. And that would be how I will suggest we begin to connect the dot. And I'll ask Vicky to react to what she heard from Lakshmi. And then I'll ask Merce to react from what Archana was telling. And then we'll see what happens. And we'll take a few minutes for that, if you're okay, and then we'll open up to the audience. Vicky, are you ready to jump in?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's kind of what Lakshmi shared, I'd like to reflect on, but I think in many ways it becomes a reflection of what everybody has said, because the ideas kind of build on top of one another. One of the things and one of the areas where I think really the potential benefit for design is massive is in health and wellness. And it's so fundamental to who we all are. And I think it also is one of the spaces where, you know, people are still most vulnerable, because it's often that we engage with health and wellness services at a point in our life when we're really unsure, or, you know, we're kind of in trouble. So I think what is amazing about having a focus on perhaps kind of creative thinking is it allows us hopefully to bring into that space a greater sense of empathy. And I think here it's really what Archana was saying as well, is I think for designers and for design students coming through, you know, being confronted with contexts that show the more vulnerable side of society is an amazing space to learn outside of yourself and to understand the experiences. I mean, especially with some of the cases, and we've had very similar situations in Africa with regards to menstruation, people often see it as kind of a siloed topic that, you know, we don't necessarily want to talk about, but the implication for gender equality in a country is highly dependent on it. We're talking about girls that are missing sometimes weeks of schooling a year, and we're removing them potentially from different forms of support, different forms of education, which really impacts, I think, how society starts to operate and starts to function. So I think design for me, what is quite powerful about design is that besides the process, it is about leveraging strategic and creative thinking, and to step outside oneself and to really learn and to build a solution space. Sometimes it's not even a solution, because sometimes it's not a problem. Sometimes it's just about how do we change the status quo to something that's more beneficial. And I think, you know, often people will say, oh, I work in an NPO space or an NGO space, but we're not designers. And I always have a bit of an internal chuckle or laugh when I hear that, because I'm like, you have never seen creative problem solving like you've seen it in an NPO sector every day of its existence. So I think that was really one of the big takeaways for me is, you know, if we look outside of the traditional realm of cases of what we would explore in design education, that we may have this ability to make contact with industry beyond what we might think of it as manufacturing or as retail, but actually look at other services and other contexts where design could really play a massive role. I think it's really interesting what Prof. Minstry was saying around, you know, you have the toilets, but nobody's using them. That's an amazing opportunity for design to learn and to really explore what is happening there. So I'm sorry if it was a little bit everywhere. I'm just really feeling quite inspired by what the speakers have shared, and everything is connecting for me. So it's difficult to separate it.
Thanks, Vicky. And I think you pointed something very interesting, which is everything is interconnected to everything. And that's why I like your insights, which are going in many directions, because we need to equip ourselves with the ability to navigate. At least that's how I frame that. Lakshmi, you want to react to what Vicky says before we give the floor to Mercy?
Just a small comment. I looked very closely at Vicky's slide, which had the confluence of inclusivity, sustainability, activism, and innovation. So I want to respond to this slide. I think this is the key, because very often if I am to look at what Bhargav shared about the toilets, the inclusivity factor never came into the whole Swachh Bharat mission. Women were never even consulted when the toilets were made, for example. Women had to fill the overhead water tank. It was they were burdened with more work than they already had. So if I connect what Bhargav has said and what Vicky says, this was just not sustainable, because what happened is no one wanted to fill the water in the water tank. So the toilets ended up as being grain storage areas. And there was no activism around that. There's a little bit of it still, but there's not enough activism. And of course, we could have done a lot of innovation work on how to overcome patriarchy and include the whole community in making sure that the water tank is filled. So this is how I'm seeing the dots at the moment. And probably I'll respond a little later, and then Alok. So I'll just stop here. So
thanks for using the case proposed by Bhargav and reframe that with some other insights based on the slide of Vicky, because it allows for all of us here to see clearly that these are interconnected. And Mercy, if you want to react on any of the elements that you have seen so far and how it resonates.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to mention as well something that Vicky pointed out with her slides about so at the beginning we have the society, industry, and creativity. So we, of course, this is what we need to all collaborate and to find solutions that it affects all. So a society and industry goes very much together. So from our perspective, that we are professionals working for the industry, actually, because we work for brands as communicators and as designers, but we have to solve problems that have the society at the end, because a brand is someone that exists because the society needs it, or it requires the service or the products that the industry is providing, right? So it's very important that to take into consideration that all these stakeholders are important to find good solutions that we all need. So industry, society needs the industry needs creativity to give back to society a good process of production or service design or whatever, and design is absolutely important in there. So I think it's important, and at the end, is for education. I think that learning by doing is a very good tool. So we as professionals, and what we've been working with in this Erasmus Plus project that we are developing at the moment, we see that education is good in a lot of ways, but sometimes they need to approach to the professional problems. So then they would need maybe to have real challenges to do, and that's we would like to propose to do that for the education, to challenge the students with real projects somehow that they can learn by doing, and to discover all the solutions, not under the typical education process, but by that childhood that you were mentioning earlier, that when we were children, we were more entrepreneurs. So we need the education methodology to be more somehow in this own development skills by every student. This is something.
Thanks, Merce. Thanks, and we have the landscape which is getting filled with many notions at many levels, and we are getting a kind of systems view. Which Aya, you want to react before we open up to audience if there are Q&As? If there are questions, I would suggest the persons put the question in the chat box. That will make us the process quite smooth. And Bhargav and Aya, the floor will be yours in terms of reactions. Aya says yes or no.
Yes, I'm saying yes. Just
yeah.
I love to bring the word silo. So we are breaking silos, and if I'm saying for me, it's important that there is clear impact, clear outcome, like simply in the coursework based on the discussion between profession and business and industry and stakeholders. I've been sensing over these millions of years, having been working in this business, in this non-profit field, that there are too many silos, even though over the past years we've been more and more getting together. But then out of this great discussion, we could one day get together and figure out what would be the tool really to help both sides to put on the table the things we are missing and the things that should be taking place in the education, like what kind of courses are given, what kind of knowledge is shared, and how research outcome is impacting the outside world and not only being embedded forever in the library of the university, etc., etc. So issues like that. And thanks for all guys who spoke today that I've been able to find out 8 tracks. Good, we are in the same boat. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Aya. Bhargav, how is the boat looking?
Again, mute, right? Okay. No, it's very interesting. I mean, we have so many people, so many thoughts from different experiences, different parts of the world, and so on. But once again, if I'll like to come back here within our country, that see, design education today, it's a top-down model, meaning you want to do design and then you kind of you want to give services to people. But before that, most important is sensitizing people at large, the population at large, as to what is good design. Otherwise, even your clients will not understand what is good design. They'll ask you to do things before they make a payment to you, what they like. And what they like will be very ugly. And we tend to fall in the trap. The youth designers, the architects, I mean, you go to societies and colonies, you see the way the footpaths are designed, see the way the lighting is, see the way the architecture is. There is no standardization in so many. Now, unless this kind of design education does not mean formal, going to school and learning. No, it has to be at the level of society at large. I mean, this is what I feel. And yes, we are at least making attempt to do that at Arts College, that at school levels, we are trying to, build this in so that the coming generation at least will follow that and help in bringing design to its real required way. So that's what I had to comment on this.
Can I say something?
Merce, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think it's super important what you are mentioning about that, because at the end we have to sell design to everyone, and we need standards about what is good design, what is not good design in terms of, or what are the best practices. So that's why we, from our professionals organization, so our organization is a non-for-profit as well. I mean, and it's that we created the Architects Hub of Europe in terms to set the standards of that excellence, of that quality, and that's why we organize these awards. You know, awards are, there are many detractors, there are people in favor, but at the end, an award sets up the standard from the profession and saying that's good, that's a good practice, this is something to point out and to show to society, to clients. Through the awards we have good examples that you can then share with your clients, or and then to give the value of good design and of good creativity. So I don't know if in India you have any kind of contest or any kind of organization that sets standards in good design, or how are you going to build that awareness to the clients and society in general about this good design?
It has to be at a governance level. Design leadership is what is needed. So at least, that way it goes on. Anyway,
yeah. Now to jump on Merce's point, there has been and there are some areas where you have awards. And me being busy in Europe and being in jury members in the US, in Europe, and in Asia, one of the comment I would have is that our industry as practitioners often do not make the connection with the education system. Let me give you a clear example. In one case, I said that awards are shared, agreed knowledge about the quality of the work. So it's the accumulation of subjective points of view, which is in a way aggregated, and it becomes an award. Now, these awards could become case studies for education systems in order to feedback and say to students, look, these are these awards. Do you think they are good? Do you think they are bad? Why? And you build critical thinking. So critical thinking needs to come into resonance with curiosity and creative thinking. Because when we talk only about creative thinking, we tend to have a romantic view of creativity. And creativity is a way to create new stuff. But new stuff is only interesting if there has been some critical thinking. And we need to think about all those feedback loops. And they were present in some of the slides of Vicky in implicit ways or in explicit, but education systems need to be reflective practitioners and not to be an industrial system of producing rats who are doing rat race, if I'm provocative in my metaphor. And if we look at the 150 years of education system, it has been a system to produce rats without critical thinking. And then came design thinking, like the kind of meta framework solving everything. But the problem of design thinking, as many of you know, is that it's only the lipstick for many industrial, because they didn't have the mindset. And then we are getting into all this tension and gaps. That is what we are trying to do with AI and all the stakeholders, is try to say, okay, let's not be stuck with romantic views of what has been designed 50 years ago. Because 50 years ago, the context was different. And today, we need to put into account the context. And that is what we are aiming towards. So I see time is flying. It's 14:20 for us in Central European time. It's getting late for all of you there in Jaipur because you are busy cooking some fantastic dinner. Archana, I know that. And Bhargav is busy doing some good food there. So how are we going to land? And knowing that we have 4 or 5 minutes left before closing this session, the audience is very passive or completely smashed by all the ideas that you have shared, and I haven't seen any question. So I will suggest we begin to wrap up and close this and keep the conversation going through other channels, and wish the best to Jaipur as a city. But let me put another point here: Jaipur as a literature festival. Literature is about sharing views from some persons on systems in different capacities. Design is about creating knowledge in inclusive modalities and pushing the boundary of what doesn't exist yet. And design can be inspired by literature, because literature and let us say science fiction can push us towards imagination of things which yet don't exist. But the challenge of design would be to make that really happen. That is where I see a fascinating sweet spot between Jaipur Literature Festival and us as designers. And that is something that I would like to open up and look into the future with Archana and say, how can we co-design a space where Jaipur Literature Festival is hosting a design workshop where Vicky, Merce, Aya, Bhargav, and Lakshmi and all the others who have been, we can do the learning by doing stuff. That would be some of the words that I would like to share before giving to each of you a few seconds to have your final words. Vicky, you want to jump in?
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you to all the speakers. I think it's been an inspiring session. I think for me, a few of the key comments that resonate so well, and apologies, I'm not going to say who said it because I don't want to get it wrong, but I think it's questions around who are you really designing for, and really having the balance and the understanding of how do you navigate designing for a client, but also knowing that at the back of that client is society and perhaps greater needs, and the conversation of how we navigate that and how we expose students to that, because I think it's such a challenge in industry. You know, when do you push back? What is too much? What is enough? And also the inspiring creative confidence in students to own not just their professional design identity, but also their design values when it comes to their interaction with clients. So understanding what you stand for as a designer and knowing the difference that you want to make and how your professional capacity is going to feed into that. And I think for me, that's a really exciting part of what was discussed today.
Thanks, Vicky. And for me, it is in resonance with what I would call critical thinking, which equip this mindset. And maybe Lakshmi, you want to jump in, and then Merce, then Archana, and then Bhargav.
Just quickly, if we could have more input for young people on ethics, maybe our value systems, simplicity, because we've forgotten how to be simple. So if that could be brought in, because if I can think back, some of the teachers who taught Bhargav and myself were such simple people. They wore simple things. They led a simple lifestyle, and they were an inspiration for us. And we had teachers who didn't own vehicles. We had teachers who just had one pair of slippers, which we saw them wearing throughout the year. So, owning 30 pairs of slippers or 30 pairs of shoes now is, you don't even think about that. So if we can, can we weave in some courses that critically examine these things, then perhaps build on that. I mean, that's just a little bit. Thank you. Alok, you did a very good job of moderation.
Thanks, Lakshmi. Thanks. We'll give the floor to Merce, and then Bhargav, and then Archana, and then Aya for closing this journey. Merce.
Well, I would just add that I absolutely agree about simplicity, great ideas are simple ideas. So let's go for simplicity, and let's go for the students. As Bhargav was earlier talking, that I would encourage for the other students to be curious. Creativity is all about curiosity, and it's all about looking for everything around that can inspire them with, and if they work with passion, and if they work hard, as in every profession, anyone who wants to succeed, they have to work hard. So from the students' experience, they already have to start working hard and being passionate about what they do. So that's all I would like to
Thanks.
say. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Merce. What I would like to add, if I may, is that both in Europe and in Asia, in India, we have, as design professionals, a challenge to educate our clients about the value of design. And Merce, I would like to have in a very near future a conversation with you to see how we can communicate about that, because there is a gap in the system in many parts of the planet. And as IXDA's past president, it's a point I highlighted, and I think that we need to have this conversation continuing. And Vicky, you are in Design Factory, and Design Factory is a sweet spot where you can show what you are learning. At least that is my way of reading that. And we didn't have time enough to talk about Design Factory, so that is something we'll need also to open up. But again, I'm supposed to close and land, and I'm opening new doors. But for us to think about, so that we have an excuse to come together and explore these questions. Vicky, you wanted to quickly react before we give the floor to Bhargav and then Archana about Design Factory, I mean.
Oh no, don't get me started on Design Factory. We'll be here for another half an hour. But
okay.
Yeah, if anybody wants to chat though, please let me know.
Okay, so let's find an excuse to have another session. Aya, and the floor is now to Bhargav.
Bhargav, please.
Telling me?
Yes.
We can't hear you.
Please.
Oh, yeah, okay. No, it's right. I think all these things put together, I still go back to saying that at least we need good design leadership, and design has to, the understanding, the appreciation of design has to start at the base level. And in the base level also lie your clients. And in order to convince the clients, it's extremely important to be convincing, to be able to push your ideas through, and that doesn't come easy. That's a very big challenge. And in order to do that, I guess designers have to have perfect skills, ideas which are really good, and the ability to communicate through properly. I mean, it's simple. There is nothing complicated about it. But achieving this is what I think design education should, I guess, focus at least some portion of it on. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Bhargav. Archana, as being Madame Arch College. Some closing keywords before Aya, as Madame Cumulus, will close this session.
So I'm grateful to Aya and Alok for having put this workshop, despite all the challenges and their commitments that is already there in the pipeline, and the time paucity that is there for each one of them because of their busy schedules. It has been made possible. I really want to thank, Mercy and Vicky for making such meaningful contribution today in terms of the conversation and building a global perspective in terms of how people, despite their challenges, we all perhaps, with our difference in opinion, we still think alike. And, the conversation actually brought different insights for all of us, which was very relevant. So your presence has actually, contributed to the workshop in a very meaningful manner. And with Lakshmi and Bhargav sir, who come from that Indian perspective, coming from the community and coming from the product design industrial side, Bhargav sir and Lakshmi's contribution, completely, it was like, a 360-degree understanding, where Alok, I think he really brings everything very well and connects the dots. It was interesting to hear different perspective, and I feel a little more enriched today because understanding that we all have a common understanding despite the diversity we all come from. So I think design has a much bigger role. It has the power to embrace diversity. And I would again emphasize on co-creation and collaboration. That's where I feel that it's the key. That's the answer to all problems. That's the answer to all opportunities. This is the solution that we all, probably seek for. So while I talk about the Jaipur Literature Festival, which Alok seems to be very keen about, it's been 2 years. So before COVID, we initiated the Responsible Fashion Series, which was a part of the Fashion Colloquia, which was initiated by the Big Fours, the London College of Fashion and Parsons and Domus and IFM Paris. So we initiated the Responsible Fashion Series. And then when I approached the Literature Festival, they seemed to be very keen and interested in the whole idea. And we put up a fashion show on sustainable, so we had these hand-woven textiles and clothing and, accessories that were put together. So it was so much appreciated. So again, we repeated. So we had a conversation at the Jaipur Literature Festival. And this would actually, because design brought into literature is very, very key, because that's a concept and design is practice. Design. So I think that's where Alok probably wanted to emphasize that, the Literature Festival gives all of us an opportunity to actually see, how design in action can actually bring the thought process of so many authors together. So that conversation, will keep it alive and make it possible. So Alok, I'm sure that you'll get an opportunity soon to connect the dots further. And that's where, thank you so much once again for, bringing this workshop. Alok, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Aya. You have the closing words, and
Yeah,
before that,
closing
let me
words.
thank all of you.
What a risk to be taken. So we were able to identify, I hope, some tools for everybody to be in use at home. And I'm interested in real outcome, in impact. So great discussion, and we're in the same boat, rowing it together forward. That's for sure, being able, all of us, to see all over the years. But how this discussion then also impacts like education, or how, like Alok was saying, how we can communicate with business and industry to welcome them to understand that design matters, arts matters. But these are these issues that we have to go on and rehearse and put the seed into the talent of the youth, that they bring the flag forward. That's all. A lot of embedded in my say. So thanks for everybody for joining us today. Good night to India. And we still go on strong here in Europe.
Yeah.
And we are happy to keep you all connected with both associations like IXDA and Cumulus. So please follow us in Facebook and every media. Cumulus at least has a general subscription for news, so as well as IXDA has open access. So follow us and stay tuned. We might be inviting you to continue discussion face-to-face on site with Archana and Barkat and the team in Jaipur.
I'm sure that, the Pink City Design Confluence is just there. In fact, it has started with the PRE workshop, I'd say that. And with the online, we have the on-site things happening for the next 2 days. We've got design pop-ups looking at good design. We've got amazing speakers. We've got design awards. We've got a lot of contributions from different countries. So we really hope to see a lot of action on campus in the next 2 days. And I wish Lakshmi could just fly like this and just be with us right away. And with you guys, yes, online you can match up with all our activities. So that's a welcome note again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and enjoy your afternoon and evening where you are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
What happened on the
Okay, that sounds good. Everybody does that. Was that? Okay.
Take a print of this photo. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The session was
Never say
live
goodbye.
on YouTube, so you can always check this out again. Yeah.
Whatever